Diego Lopes is looking to take out all of the veterans, maybe even legends, if you consider him that, of the featherweight division. He just defeated Brian Ortega, and now he is fighting Yair Rodriguez in March for Mexico City, headliner of the Fight Night card. Whose side is the arena going to be on? Most likely Yair's, right? Because Lopez is from Brazil. But regardless, man, the crowd is going to go insane for that fight. Yair, he's been around for a long time. He hasn't really changed too much ever since his comeback to fight Max Holloway. From that fight onward, he's been essentially like the same fighter. Lopez has been getting better with every single one of his fights, and it just seems like it's his wave. The Yairs and Ortegas, that era is done. They're just there to hold on to their spot in the rankings while Diego's looking to get his title shot. But that's the interesting part of this. Who is fighting for the title? You would think it's Alexander Volkanovski, but Ilia has been talking about going up to lightweight. We haven't heard too much about Charles Oliveira yet. That is the fight that Ilia wants. And there are some journalists that are saying that Ilia is fighting Volkanovski in May, but it seems like that's the fight. But then who's going to fight Volk after, right? Because let's be honest, man, we all love Volkanovski, but he's getting KO'd. It's just the new era of the featherweight division. That's one reason I don't like this fight that much, man. Volk deserves a rematch, but I don't want to see him get KO'd again, and that's most likely how the fight is going to end. And then who's going to fight Ilia? It would have to be Diego Lopez, right? It just depends how much longer does Ilia want to stay at featherweight before he makes that jump up to lightweight. And that also leaves out Movsar Evloev. The fight to make was Diego versus Movsar. That was the fight. This is an insane opportunity for Yair. He's getting a great opportunity. He just lost to Brian Ortega, the guy that Diego Lopez just beat. Yair has an opportunity to fight the same guy after a loss. If Yair pulls it off, if he lands some somersault tornado knee to the chin, KOs Diego Lopez, then what? What do you do with the weight class? Because it's still a fight at the end of the day. It's still a top-ranked matchup, and Diego can get very wild in the stand-up. A lot of openings for Yair to land some crazy kick or elbow or something. Then does Yair get another title shot? Does he fight Ilia Topuria, or does he fight Movsar? The way they matchmake this is so strange. It should have just been Diego versus Movsar, Ilia Topuria versus Alexander Volkanovski, and the winners of those two fights fight each other at the end of the year. The reason Movsar is not fighting is because he's not going to fight in March, which is mainly the reason as to why he's not fighting Diego Lopez. Is during Ramadan. I mean, they could have maybe pushed the fight later, but it's Mexico City. They most likely want to build Diego now, the next star of the featherweight division, or at least a potential star. They don't want just one, right? They don't want to put all their eggs in that Ilia Topuria basket. Also put some into Diego Lopez. Let's elevate both these fighters for a big fight in the future. So having Diego Lopez in Mexico City is a big one. But against the hometown guy is kind of questionable. It's like, okay, he might be not the villain, but he's not going to be the fan favorite of that fight for the Mexican audience. Could that mean that Movsar gets an interim title fight with Volkanovski if Ilia moves up to lightweight? That'd be kind of crazy. I think the fight they should have made was Diego Lopez versus Movsar Evloev. That was the perfect fight to make, and Ilia Topuria versus Alexander Volkanovski. Perfect title fight, perfect number one contender fight. Winners fight each other, but Ilia wants to do the whole Conor thing. He wants to jump weight classes and get the 2 division titles, and even if he fights and beats Volk before moving up, it's too much, man. There's too many fighters who are trying to do that in this sport, and the guy only has 1 title defense. No, it is against Max Holloway. He beat Volk and Max, which are maybe the 2 best back-to-back wins in UFC history, but even still, he didn't beat everybody, right? He didn't beat Diego, he didn't beat Movsar, he didn't beat Arnold Allen, he didn't beat most of the contenders. And the featherweight division is just building, man. It's just getting better. With Ilia winning the belt, it opens up so many more options for contenders. Now Arnold Allen's maybe 1 or 2 wins away to get a title shot. Lerone Murphy's on his way up. Diego's right there. So is Movsar. I think in this new era of the featherweight division, Yair and Ortega are maybe going to start declining or stagnate to the point where the other fighters pass them up. I know I talk about him a lot. John Silva, that's the guy. He's going to be right up with those top contenders, even though right now he is unranked, but he is that good. He is as good as these guys like Diego and Movsar and Allen and Sterling and all these guys. I think he could beat some of them. He's gonna be the greatest of all time. He's gonna be the best fighter ever. I am really high on John Silva, and I do think he is one of the better featherweights right now. But honestly, man, if Ilia moves up to lightweight, that's such a bummer for the weight class, man. Just when the division is getting good again, there's new matchups now. There's really good fights that don't involve Volk and Holloway anymore. The featherweight division has basically been the Volk and Holloway show for the last 7 years. We're finally in a new chapter. We're finally at another series. And the guy who started at the pilot, he wants to go and do his own thing in another weight class and give the show to Diego and Movsar. Is that really what this weight class is going to be now? The Diego and Movsar rivalry? That was Diego's UFC debut in a very competitive fight with Movsar Evloev. Now they're 2 of the top ranked fighters. And if Ilia goes to the next weight class, who else is going to be up there with Diego and Movsar up until John Silva does. He's the only fighter I really think, even though I've been glazing him, he is the only other fighter that I think has the potential to fight with those two. And also Arnold Allen. I think those 4 fighters, if Ilia moves up to lightweight, are your best featherweights. Diego Lopez, Movsar Evloev, Arnold Allen, and John Silva. I mean, Arnold Allen he should have won against Movsar, I think. And maybe Lerone Murphy gets really good and competes with these guys as well, because look at the top 15. Ilia Topuria is the champion, right? Let's say he moves to lightweight, which he eventually will. Even if he fights like once or twice more at featherweight, he is eventually going to move up to lightweight. I think Volkanovski's done. Holloway's moved up to lightweight. Diego might be your next champion. Movsar can also be your next champion. These two are the best fighters in the weight class after Ilia. Yair, Ortega are done. Josh Emmett has potential, but not this late in his career. Sterling, I think at this point he's kind of like stagnant with his skills. Kelvin Kattar, kind of similar as well. He's been around for a long time. He's like he is kind of like the gatekeeper of featherweight. If you could be Kelvin Kattar, then you're fighting the better fighters of the weight class. Either him or Josh Emmett, actually. Josh Emmett or Kelvin Kattar are the gatekeepers at featherweight. Lerone Murphy has potential. Giga Chikadze, nah. He's kind of like in the same place Aljamain is, where he's not going to get much better. He's been fighting for a long time. Bryce Mitchell has potential, but I'm going to be honest, I like Bryce Mitchell a lot. I think he's hilarious. But to be honest about his skills, I just don't think he's as good as some of the other featherweights. Dan Ige is a good fighter. He's never an easy fight, but he's not at the same skill level as the fighters above. And then Edson Barboza, again, similar to these other veterans, right? There's a lot of them, man. There's not a lot of like new contenders, and all the new contenders in the weight class are your future top ranked fighters, which includes Diego, Movsar, Arnold Allen, and Lerone Murphy. And then eventually I do think John Silva and maybe Felipe Lima are also going to be somewhere in the top 10. So very interesting matchmaking. Now, if Ilia is going to lightweight and it's Volk versus Movsar, that's a different fight because Movsar is not a knockout puncher. He's not a big puncher like Ilia is. He's a good grappler, but that is something Volk hasn't really fought too much in his career other than Islam, which is a big example, right? That's the only fighter. Chad Mendes too. Chad Mendes is a different kind of wrestler, but Islam has a very similar grappling style to Movsar, and Volk did well against Islam on the ground, who's bigger, stronger, and also a very good grappler. I think Volk's skills are still there. His chin may have gotten worse though. So I do think he could beat Movsar. I think he has the skills to beat him if he is the same fighter. Stylistically, I favor Volkanovski, but after getting knocked out twice, we're probably in the last chapters of Volkanovski's career. Who knows if Volk is still the same fighter? If Volk is still the same guy that we saw fight Islam Makhachev and Yair Rodriguez, and even against Ilia, the same guy that we saw against Ilia, I think he beats Movsar. He has very good takedown defense, very good scrambler on the ground, good at not getting choked out even if Islam has his back. He hits harder than Movsar, he's faster, he's a better striker, he has better footwork, he has better feints and all technical abilities in the stand-up. Like, it's not even close. The grappling will go to Movsar, but it's not going to be easy for him, right? Volk is a very good grappler as well. So I think Movsar can have a lot of grappling control in the fight, but Volk will have all like the biggest damaging moments of the fight. And of course, I think Diego beats Yair. He shouldn't stand with Yair too much. He should take the fight to the ground and beat him there. Yair is at his weakest on the ground. And in the striking, Diego's very powerful, but he's wild. And there's a lot of openings for Yair to land a high kick or an elbow because Diego's mostly an overhand left hook guy. Look at all of his fights. That's like the main two punches that he throws. Right overhand, left hook. And that's how he almost knocked out Brian Ortega with the first exchange. That's how hard this guy hits because Ortega's very durable. And if he can KO Ortega with the first punch and then wake him up with the second punch, I think he could drop Yair or even finish him with strikes. Yair's taken a lot of damage throughout his career as well. His chin is only getting worse with every fight, so have to go with Diego Lopez in that fight. So what do you guys think about these fights? What do you guys think about the matchmaking? Who's going to get a title shot? Who's going to be fighting for the featherweight title, either if it's the undisputed title or the interim title, depending if Ilia moves up? And what do you think of the featherweight division? Because it's a very interesting chapter for this weight class. And I'll see you guys in the next video.